Okay, so this is Elissa, Body in the Bedroom. Okay. Weston King has dodged reviewing my manuscript for weeks. Always too busy. After some hesitation, I decide to go to his office unannounced. Inside, he keeps his head buried in another pile of manuscripts, never once looking up. I place my manuscript quietly at the edge of his desk and stand waiting. Time drags on until he finally picks up my work and begins reading. 200,000 words, dismissed in barely half an hour. He looks up at last, his gaze drifting over me with practiced indifference. "Oh, my sincerest apologies, madam. Didn't see you there. Should have spoken up. How unusual to see you out. You rarely leave your quarters, as I recall. Though you might have chosen a better moment. Rather inconvenient timing. You see, I was meant to review one manuscript, but now I find myself saddled with two mystery writers' works at once. Though, I must say, it's made quite clear what makes a truly compelling story. That other piece, now there's something worth reading. As for yours, really, madame, who would waste their time reading such nonsense?" As his words still hang in the air, he tosses my manuscript, Mrs. Davis's Afternoon. 6 months of my life's blood into his waste bin without ceremony, like so much crumpled paper. I should speak up, show anger, displeasure, anything, just one word of protest. "Weston, you'd condemn my work so easily?" But the words stick in my throat. "Ah, one more thing. My assistants brought this letter from a reader of yours, it seems." Well, well, the illustrious Mel Gideon. Too timid to open a reader's letter. Off you go then, madam. Best of luck to you. I'd braced myself for Weston's rejection, but seeing my manuscript in the waste bin still hits me like a physical blow. This defeat stings worse than any before. His reputation in literary circles stands unassailable. Even I, with all my bitterness, can't deny that. Each time he delivers one of his cutting remarks, that treacherous voice in my mind whispers, "He's right," and, in my indignation, simply fades away. After that dreadful meeting, I dropped the letter carelessly on the sideboard. These days, I sustain myself by publishing short detective stories in newspaper corners, mere crumbs from the literary table. A reader's letter. How unexpected. Well then, let's see who'd waste their ink on a failed novelist like myself. As I open it, a sharp scent of spirits assaults my nose. If I'm not mistaken, it's the scent of Vosh wine. That distinctive sharp scent of fermented Bossa flowers is almost etched into my memory. Vosh wine only comes from Croatia, my homeland. In Saran, one finds it only in select dance halls and wine merchants. Could they be selling it in Lanivia? A case for the police or a detective, surely. Yet they write to me. "Dear Miss Gideon, I apologise for writing to you so suddenly. Having frequently read your mystery stories in the newspaper, I hesitated for quite some time before deciding to write. Recently, a member of my family has been behaving strangely, constantly locking themselves in their room. Not only that, but I found evidence that someone has been searching through my quarters. I worry something unfortunate may have occurred. In short, I very much hope you might investigate this matter. If you're willing, please come to the Rotting Cafe at 118 Lenivia Street at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on February 12th. I shall explain everything in detail then. M. More likely some prank at my expense. After all, I'm hardly known. Still, it piques my interest in a way I cannot ignore. The meeting is today. I might as well investigate. Could yield some writing material. If it's a prank, at least it's an excuse for an outing. The miscellaneous items. Okay. This hat will do. Nothing but black and grey with an arrow. Okay. Okay, we mustn't forget the notebook. There we go. Okay. Take the letter. Okay. Anything else? There we go. My mysterious fellow lodger's abandoned meal now sports a coat of white mould. They rarely leave things in such a state. I should speak up if this continues. Today's paper, but I've got no time to read it now. When I first took lodging here, I'd been the sole tenant of this house. Yet, within days, another had moved in. Most peculiar, though, to this day, our paths have never crossed. This person is like a shadow, present, yet forever unseen, sharing these quarters in perfect silence. You mean that's not the way out? Okay. After checking mirror, leave. Okay. Evidence of my last misadventure, canary droppings from crouching in the shrubbery. My life as a struggling novelist seemed to alternate between moments of fortune and receiving peculiar letters. What a remarkably rich existence I lead. Perhaps there's something disarmably approachable about my countenance. The elderly ladies of the neighbourhood seem drawn to conversation, and once familiar, their requests take the most peculiar turns. Miss Mel, you're that writer, aren't you? Do be a dear and help locate my bird. I'll ensure you're properly compensated. The newspaper pays me pennies for my stories, yet these strange commissions come with surprising generosity. Though, I wonder, is their kindness merely pity in disguise? I see it in their eyes when they look at me, sympathy mingled with distaste for the old woman who writes of dismembered corpses. But truth be told, I am indeed a failed dreamer. What if this letter is merely someone's jest? I cannot deny the burning curiosity within me. But is that truly all there is to it? Or perhaps, am I secretly hoping it might lead to something more? Time to leave. The cafe is sparsely populated, with only 3 tables occupied. With half an hour remaining before our 2 o'clock appointment, I decide to observe my surroundings. Perhaps my letter writer has arrived early, just as I have. A black lacquered telephone, its ring persistently disturbing the air. Behind the glass counter, an array of cakes sits on display. They look rather appealing, though I haven't the money to spare. Excuse me, has anyone been asking for Mel Gideon? The waiter lifts his heavy lids to look at me, weary-eyed, offering no response. His answer is clear enough. I notice the telephone rings continuously beside him, yet he shows no intention of answering. He ignores both the telephone and the customers trying to order. The clock hands move sluggishly, making these 10 minutes feel interminable. A simple wooden cabinet, its upper and lower shelves filled with books. Oh, for heaven's sake! We've been sitting here nearly 10 minutes and look at that fool at the counter. Hasn't once come to ask after us. He's always like this, dear. When he came to talk, anyway. I'd like him to take my money and at least give me some water. It's just service bowl just for decoration. Don't be cross, dear. At least the setting is nice. Let's go. I've had quite enough. I can't fathom how this place stays in business. As they say, having a hard-working, honest father uses up one's luck in life. Look at him. Surely spent another night at the card tables. How do you know so much about all that? Don't tell me you visit such places. I select a seat near the entrance. The table still bears coffee stains and cigarette ash from the previous patron, with no one having bothered to clean it. An 87-year-old man in hospital declared dead, his son preparing the funeral. Then, the old man returns home perfectly fine, his son dies of shock. Heavens, if I use that as writing material, I might as well hang myself. They can be my letter writer. The letter carried an unmistakable sense of unease. The wall clock shows past 3. I've waited, but not a single patron has mentioned my name. Just as I'm about to dismiss this as a crude prank, commotion erupts outside. A crowd gathers at the street corner, pointing towards an upstairs resident. Isn't that Matthew Madden? Where's Liz? Why is he alone? I step outside and see a man at a second-floor window, calling out in distress. Please! Please help! We need more people! Mrs. Lawrence, they're having you back! A stout middle-aged woman hurries past me, her jewellery jingling. As she runs, I notice her removing a ring from her fourth finger, a blue gemstone ring. Before I can understand why she's removing her ring, 2 men hurry after her. A thunderous banging echoes from above, then silence. Moments later, a man's deep, grief-stricken cry comes from the open window. Liz! The crowd outside descends into chaos. Something dreadful must have happened upstairs. Unwanted imaginings flood my mind, making my heart race. I return to the cafe, tear a sheet from the counter notepad, write my contact details and hand it to the drowsy waiter. Excuse me, if someone asks for Mel Gideon, please give them this note. The waiter barely moves. I dislike mentioning it, but you should wake up. Your coffee beans are burnt enough for the dustbin. Reality only truly sinks in as I stand in Matthew Madden's home. This is my first encounter with death. The body bears no grotesque expression, just an unsettling pallor as it lies rigid on the floor. Under the collective gaze of the room, it silently churns my stomach. In this moment, all my previous pretensions about murder mysteries, serial killers, dismemberments seem utterly laughable. Death, I realise, is brutally simple, almost absurdly so. Matthew Madden's wails pierce the air once more. From his wheelchair, he clutches desperately at the bejeweled woman, his crying becoming quite unbearable. Mrs. Lawrence, if I recall correctly. She offers me an awkward smile, attempting several times to extract herself from his grip, but to no avail. It's remarkable how such a frail man possesses such strength. Mr. Madden, sir, perhaps you'd like to dry your eyes. Thank you. There's fresh tea just brewed, miss. Do help yourself. I don't believe we've met. Who might you be? Oh, I do apologise. The teacup slips from my grasp, rolling onto his lap. The blanket covering his legs is thoroughly soaked, adding to his dishevelled state. I hastily attempt to brush away the tea leaves, but he seems utterly indifferent, giving it merely a cursory pat before dismissing the matter entirely. I'm terribly sorry, my hand, it just slipped. Shouldn't you change? No matter, it's nothing of consequence. Seeing that Matthew Madden harbours no ill will, I return to replace the teacup, taking the opportunity to survey my surroundings. It's a modest room with a straightforward layout, one door standing open. The body lies stretched out on the floor with 4 people huddled around it. The acoustics are dreadful. Footsteps from above and murmured conversations create an insufferable cacophony. When we got her down from the rope, the body was already cold. She's really gone. Must have been dead for a while. That bedroom door was solid, my shoulder's still aching from breaking it down. My Liz, why would you do something so foolish? Oh, poor dear. Everyone present seems to have accepted this as just another mundane suicide. I'm about to follow suit and take my leave, but since the moment I'd entered, a familiar scent has been tickling my nostrils, refusing to dissipate. The pungent aroma of fermented pisana flowers permeates the air, growing stronger by the moment. In a discreet corner, I spot the distinctive triangular bottle of Vosges wine. Mr. Madden, might I ask you something? Do you regularly drink Vosges wine? Vosges wine? I have it occasionally. Why do you ask, miss? Forgive the untimely question. It's just that Vosges wine is exclusively produced in Croatia. It's quite rare here in Saran, and I happen to be from Croatia. Croatia? You know of it? No, not all. Ah, I remember you. You worked with Liz. Peter Thiessen, isn't it? Yes, sir. Liz mentioned you. Said you were a decent fellow. Thank you for helping to get her down. It was nothing, sir. His expression darkens further. Now then, miss. What brings you here? Well, I wanted you to see this letter. When I opened it, there was a strong smell of Vosges wine. I thought perhaps you might know its origins. Matthew Madden takes the letter. His expression shifts from doubt to recognition. So you're Miss Mel Gideon. Did you write this letter? Indeed, M. That's Matthew Madden. I see. More straightforward than writing the full name. Though your legs appear to hinder you. You went to the cafe, didn't you? Did you notice the telephone there? So, you intended to contact me through the cafe's telephone. Matthew Madden doesn't respond. He stares at the body on the floor before closing his eyes tightly. Then, this must be the person mentioned in your letter. Yes. She's my sister Liz. It's all because of those cursed things. If not for them, Liz would never have come to this. These things you speak of, what are they? If you saw Liz's room, you'd understand everything. Oh, yes, it's horrifying. I've never seen anything so terrible in my life. Matthew Madden clutches his head, his expression tortured. I turn towards Liz's room. Now I understand their reluctance to approach that chamber. The makeshift rope still hangs within, fashioned from what appears to be clothing or bed sheets. Ahem. Matthew Madden, there's something I'm not sure whether I should mention. Mrs. Lawrence's voice cuts through my thoughts. Look, Liz's eyes, they're still open. I think it would be best to close them. They say if the deceased's eyes remain open, their soul cannot find peace.
Really, madame? I suspect you're the one who's frightened. What would the living know of the dead's affairs?
What nonsense, Screwdriver! I suggested it out of concern for Liz. The poor thing has suffered enough.
I've heard that saying myself. There may be truth in it. If I knew my legs weren't... Mrs. Lawrence, would you help? Close my sister's eyes.
What? Me? I...
The lady seems afraid.
Oh my, I've never touched a dead person.
This was your suggestion, madam. Don't look to me. I've no belief in such superstitions, I can't help.
How cold-hearted, Screwdriver. Have you no sympathy at all?
Oh? Never mind any of you. I'll do it myself.
Let me. I can help. We speak almost simultaneously. Peter Thessian gives me a startled glance and looks away, falling silent. His behaviour strikes me as odd. Something about him seems strange. I'll do it. Thank you. That would be most kind. I draped my handkerchief over my left hand and gently straightened her tilted head to meet my gaze. She looks young, around 23. Moments ago, I felt ill at my first sight of a corpse. Now, I'm examining one at such close proximity. Quite incredible. But why would this poor girl take her own life? Perhaps the body itself might yield some answers. The ligature mark on the front of the neck angles upward. Below it, on the side, there's a subtle bruise. Additionally, the back of the neck shows a ring of faint purple bruising connected to these marks. The face is damp with a slight unpleasant odour, unclear if it's the smell of decomposition. Dark post-mortem lividity at the ankle suggests death occurred last night. All fingers except the thumbs show damaged nails.
Miss Mel, I understand now about the letter's investigation. I'm sorry to have troubled you needlessly.
Mr. Madden, there are concerning details about Liz's body.
Concerning?
If this were hanging, certain marks shouldn't be present. The reason for the nail damage remains uncertain. Best to be cautious. In hanging, the body's weight pulls downward, creating an upward or diagonal mark on the neck. These bruises at the back of the neck shouldn't exist. Perhaps the cloth was very tight. We struggled to get her down. Even with a tight binding, the neck marks should align back front to back. But while the front mark angles upward, the back shows unrelated bruising. Bruising at the back. Yes, and it's not from any blunt object. It resembles marks from violence. Mr. Madden, did Liz ever suffer physical abuse? Never. Nothing like that ever happened. Then, I suspect Liz's death may not be suicide. Not suicide? Huh? Miss Mel, is this true?
Steady now, Matthew. This lady's just arrived. Doesn't know the facts. We all witnessed it. Liz's room was locked from inside. Why else would your wretched house have another broken door? Those are the facts, miss. Suggesting this isn't suicide seems rather far-fetched.
Indeed, though Groot Rapper is disagreeable, I agree with him here. It's just an extra mark, likely from Liz bumping into something. Doubting suicide over this seems excessive. Their reasoning sounds solid. My suspicions seem weak in comparison. What should I do next? Like something from a novel, the unfolding events intrigue me further. An investigation would be ideal, but for now, I need to convince those present to trust me. I acknowledge your reasoning, yet I maintain my position. Sir, I regret I couldn't be of assistance. Liz's death grieves me as well. Though we cannot alter what has occurred, surely you wish to know what Liz experienced. With your cooperation, I promise you answers. Surely this is why you wrote to me in the first place.
I wonder why are you so determined about these answers of yours?
Sir, sometimes instinct can be a powerful form of judgment.
Ha! This should prove enlightening. Miss Melt, you shall have my cooperation.
I certainly cannot. I have children waiting at home. I must return at once. I prefer you remain, madam. Remain? Whatever for? The suicide is evident. We all witnessed it. It won't take long, unless you have something to conceal. Don't you dare make accusations. What could I possibly have to conceal? Very well, Miss Mel, but do be quick. I've been here an age already.